Oh, I beg your pardon. I'm not being funny, but it's really not my cup of tea. Oh, no, I don't want to make a fuss. Hi, and welcome back to Love English. In today's lesson, I'm keeping it simple. 10 expressions in English, British English, that I think will not only help you sound more native and natural, but will actually help you immerse yourself in the culture. Language reflects culture, reflects behaviours of a nation, of a country. Now, what are the Brits actually famous for? You might have a few negative things. Probably most of you will say, ugh, fish and chips, disgusting, bad food. Yes, okay, there is that. But there's also many qualities that we would associate with British people, Britishness, that through language we embody. We act out these behaviours. Language and culture are very much interconnected. So, think about the Brits. We like to queue. We're polite, perhaps overly polite. We don't want to intrude or perhaps invade someone's privacy. We're quite a private nation. And then, of course, there's that famous stiff upper lip. If you don't know what that means, keep watching because I am going to explain that expression to you in just a moment. So, in today's lesson, 10 simple, common, frequently used expressions in English to help you not only sound more British, but perhaps even behave more British. Now, before we get started, please do make sure you click that subscribe button and of course the notifications bell so you know when we upload new lessons. You can also follow us on Instagram for more mini lessons with reels and stories, and of course visit our Facebook page. Right, 10 expressions, some you might know, some you might not. Let's get started. Now, focusing on being polite. Rather than just saying sorry, which in fact we do a lot anyway, you can also use pardon, or as an alternative, I beg your pardon, or even excuse me. I would say that I use excuse me more often than I would use pardon or I beg your pardon. So pardon is essentially when you are either unsure of what someone said, pardon, I didn't quite catch you, or even if you've done something and you feel you've done something rude. Oh, pardon me, I didn't mean to interrupt. I beg your pardon is a little more formal, less commonly used, but you will certainly hear it. Certain tones, intonations can actually mean that you're shocked by what someone has said. I beg your pardon, what did you just say? Or indeed, when you are trying to be polite, oh, sorry, I beg your pardon, I didn't want to interrupt you there. Of course, for me, the easiest one to go to is excuse me. You can use this when you've interrupted someone, when you think you've been rude, when you need to get past, perhaps in line or into a shop, someone's in your way. Oh, excuse me, I just need to get past. So, excuse me, pardon, and I beg your pardon. All of these are a great way of saying sorry or, can I get past? I need to get past. You're in my way, basically. So good expressions, useful expressions to help you sound a little more British and a little bit more polite. Now, number 2, we don't want to cause offence. We don't want to say anything that will upset someone. But of course, we've got an expression for this, which isn't particularly exciting or interesting, but essentially, no offence. No offence, but did you actually read your essay before you handed this in? No offence, but I do think you're wrong about that. So this is a phrase that we would use regularly in English, when we know we're going to say something that will offend, but we don't want to offend, but we're going to say the thing that we're going to say anyway. No offence, but have you ever actually picked up a grammar book and studied English grammar? Essentially, you're still going to offend them either way, but this is like, I'm trying to be polite here, but I still want to say what I think. Being funny. No, in this case, I'm not actually talking about ha funny. Leila's been so funny again. No, that's not what I'm referring to here. Funny has a lot of different meanings. Oh, that food tastes a bit funny. Are you sure it's not past its expiration date? So this could be strange, unusual, not normal. She's behaving a little bit funny. I wonder if she's a bit stressed at school. But in this case, I'm going to teach you how to use it when you are trying to, again, soften a complaint. We do complain in British English, of course, but we like to soften our complaints so that we don't seem too harsh, too rude. Rather than say, my hotel room is completely filthy, could you get it cleaned again for me, thank you? But rather than use this direct tone, we could use the phrase, I'm not being funny. I'm not being funny, but I don't think our room has actually been cleaned properly. Would you mind getting someone to go up there and give it a good clean again? Thank you ever so much. So I'm not being funny, but I'm going to complain. I'm going to say something that you might not like, that if I don't try and soften my language, you might even be offended by. I'm not being funny, but have you actually watched any of our idioms lessons recently? You really don't seem to be using a lot of idiomatic expressions. So number 4 and 5, of course, we are famous for tea in the UK. Truth be told, the truth is, I think a lot of us actually in the UK now do drink more coffee than tea. I think this is changing a little bit with the American culture and Italian culture, of course, coming over. But still, tea is at the heart of our nation. We are a country of tea lovers, particularly older generations. So, number 4, if you haven't heard it before, you're hearing it now. I have to include this one. Fancy a cuppa? Fancy a cuppa? We wouldn't say, would you like a cup of tea? Sounds very strange. Colloquial, natural spoken English would be, fancy a cuppa? Not even would you or do you, but fancy a cuppa. To fancy, remember, is an informal colloquial verb that we would use to say you desire, want something, and cuppa would be more colloquial slang for cup of tea. So, fancy a cuppa? Earl Grey or Builder's tea? Blech, Builder's tea, hate it. Always Earl Grey, guys. And remember, by offering someone a cup of tea, you're of course being quintessentially British. You are embracing the culture and knowing that it's the polite, friendly thing to do if someone comes around to your house. Offer them a cup of tea. Number 5, I think you might have heard this before, but if you haven't, my goodness, you need to use it. It's not my cup of tea. Again, a nice way to say you don't like something, to avoid being rude, to be more polite. You could say, oh, I would love to come and see the film with you, but, you know, horror films, not really my cup of tea. Much more polite than saying, oh, horror films, hate them, horrible, don't want to watch any. No, I'm not coming. So, sorry, no, it's really not my cup of tea. But thank you for asking. So again, being more polite and more British and embracing that theme of tea. Number 6. Now, I don't know how true this is for me. I tend not to care too much about what other people think, particularly if I don't know them. So obviously within reason, I don't want people to think I'm a horrible person or I'm rude or disruptive. But we have an expression in English, what will the neighbours think? What will the neighbours think? Now, you're kind of taking this view that you care about the impression you give, you want to be seen as an upstanding member of society. In fact, my husband uses this expression sometimes with me, not knowingly realising he's becoming perhaps a bit more British, because I often go outside and call my cats, call them in for like, it's dinner time, Millie, Maya, or, you know, bedtime. So yeah, I'm a little bit crazy and my husband's like, what are the neighbours going to think? You're out there calling the cats. And I'm just like, well, don't really care too much. But in British English, we do have this expression, what will the neighbours think? When we are concerned about perhaps what our, indeed, neighbours, the people that live around us, might think of our behaviour, or even if there's a horrible car parked outside that looks a bit run down, not particularly nice, we might say, oh, what is that van, that car doing parked outside? What will the neighbours think? Meaning, what kind of people do they think we've got living here or visiting if the car's really horrible? So a little bit stuck up, a bit posh to use this phrase, but still, again, something you might consider using in some circumstances. Number 7, when you don't want to cause too many problems, when you don't want to inconvenience somebody, to ask them, request them to do something, or complain about something that may cause them additional work. Oh, I don't want to make a fuss, really. I don't want to make a fuss. A fuss is like a bother, like a commotion, so causing problems basically. Oh, I didn't want to make a fuss, but I think you're parked across my driveway. Would you mind moving the car at some point? Again, this is really when you're trying to be perhaps overly polite. Sometimes you have to make a fuss, really. If you're in a restaurant and you get a dish that you didn't order and you want the correct thing, or perhaps something is undercooked, you might say to the waiter, oh, I don't want to make a fuss, but I think you'll find my chicken isn't cooked properly. Could you send it back to the kitchen, please? So again, just trying to be so polite, not offend or upset anyone. But to be honest, sometimes in some situations, you do need to make a fuss. But nevertheless, being British, I really didn't want to make a fuss. It's no problem if you're going to be a little bit late, but if you could just let me know in future. Right. Do you have a stiff upper lip? Number 8, referring to what is quintessentially very British behaviour, showing or really showing a lack of emotion. So when we talk about having a stiff upper lip in British English, we're referring to the British ways of not showing too much emotion, whether that is sadness or indeed joy, elation, happiness. Think about the royal family. They really do represent the British stiff upper lip. So essentially, with the stiff upper lip, you don't move your lip very much. So you're very much like, yes, I feel very sad about that situation. But you're not showing any emotion. When you do show emotion, your lip tends to move, quiver. Oh, I'm so sad. Think about it like that. So we can use stiff upper lip in the context of, come on, you're in England now, have more of a stiff upper lip. Don't let these things upset you. Now 9 and 10 are really more idiomatic, but they are very, very British and really do represent how crazy the Brits are. Number 9, mad dogs and Englishmen go out in the midday sun. Mad dogs and Englishmen. You can shorten it down exactly to that, mad dogs and Englishmen. Use it as an expression in passing when you want to comment on how British people can sometimes be a little bit strange, crazy, unusual. It really refers to the British way of not adapting to certain situations just because they are so stubborn. In this case, we're talking about Englishmen going out in the midday sun, in the extreme heat with their dogs. Dogs, I suppose, are a bit crazy too, despite the fact it is too hot. Think about it. When you go on holiday, who are the people that are still out during the middle of the day? Yes, it's the Brits, out in the midday sun, not bothered about the fact it is way too hot. Now, this expression does come from a song by Noel Coward, but essentially we would still use it commonly today when we're kind of making a comment on someone's behaviour being strange and odd. You might see a group of Englishmen out in the sun, burning, roasting themselves, going red, and go, mad dogs and Englishmen. You don't need to add that extra go out in the midday sun. It's just a simple way to comment on the strange behaviours of the Brits when the sun comes out. And finally, Bob's your uncle. Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt, but again, we keep this usually short to Bob's your uncle. There is a historical meaning to this expression. It comes basically from politics, referring to when Prime Minister Robert Cecil appointed his nephew to an important position within the government. But what it actually means nowadays is simply done, finished, that was easy. Basically, there you have it. So essentially you could use this expression when you have explained how to do something to someone. So for example, let's use coffee as an example. If you want to use my Nespresso machine, you simply need to get the capsule, place it inside where the little capsule hole is. I don't know what I would call that otherwise. You press over a button, click the size of coffee you want. So there's large, espresso, or ristretto, I think you would call it that. Press which size you want and Bob's your uncle, coffee. So if you do explain anything that's relatively simple to someone else, it's a great expression to use. And there we have it, 10 fun, quintessentially British expressions that also I think help you integrate with the British culture. Think a little bit more like a Brit. Whether you fancy a cuppa or want to have more of a stiff upper lip, these expressions will help. Thank you so much for watching, and do try and comment below. Use one or two of these expressions in a context that suits you, that's personal to you. And if I've missed any expressions out that you particularly enjoy, do comment and share them below with the other students. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you very soon. Bye.